This is iFanboy Pick of the Week 808, brought to you by iFanboy listeners just like you who are washing their hands, wearing their masks, getting vaccinated, getting booster shots, stretching, drinking water, getting exercise, calling your mother for the Thanksgiving holiday, calling your grandmother if she's still around. Just basically living a good life, best you can, while it's out there. Hello, welcome to iFanboy Pick of the Week, episode 808. My name is Conor Kilpatrick. And sitting in with me this week is my co-host, Dr. Ryan Haupt.
Greetings.
And Josh Flanagan is away at a turkey treatment center. We told him to take it easy, but he didn't listen. So
now, are they treating the turkeys? Like, is he trying to help turkeys get better?
No,
What's
he
happening?
ate too much turkey.
And
he's in recovery. We wish him a speedy recovery.
Cryogenic tryptophan chamber?
Yeah. I, meanwhile, am sick because there's a cold going around. The same cold that Josh had a few weeks ago. So there we go. It actually hurts to talk, which is great for a show like this. And who are we? We are iFanboy. And every week we read a bunch of comics. Oh, hey, by the way, happy Thanksgiving if you're in America. This is the Thanksgiving episode, the traditional episode Ryan and I usually do together.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. And I hope you had a good holiday if you are in America. And I hope you had a good Thursday and Friday if you are everywhere else.
I think this year, more so than even last year, I had friends telling me they weren't doing a turkey, yourself included. And I just have to say, I don't support it.
No, I didn't do a turkey because I didn't want a turkey. I wanted a turkey. It was a whole other. This is the being sick.
I got people telling me that they prefer a ham.
No,
they're doing like buttermilk brine chickens.
That's lunacy. We all know
it's insane out here. It's insane out here.
I unfortunately had to cancel my plans very sadly because I was sick and couldn't fly and couldn't go see my grandmother, which is terrible because I haven't seen her in years. So that was fun. Let's put that in the background and not think about that.
And I made gravy.
And say, who are we? We're a fanboy. Every week we read a bunch of comics. One of us picks the one they like the best. We call it the pick of the week. We talk about that book, other books, the Patron Pick, some listener mail. We try to get them in there. And mostly we try to have fun for you and for us.
And we try to get it over with so Conor can go back to bed.
That's also true. I'm literally in my robe just ready to doff it and back to sleep. Here's your spoiler warning. There's going to be spoilers. Exercise some caution. This week, Ryan, you had the Thanksgiving pick.
Yeah, and this was by the time I'd gotten through most of my stack, it was pretty clear that the standout for me this week was Superman 78, number 4, part 4 of the 6-issue miniseries, story by Robert Venditti, art by Wilfredo Torres, colors by Jordi Belair, and letters by David Lanphier of A Larger World. Are you still reading this, Conor?
Yeah, this book is great. I mean, we talked about...
Yeah, I think it's the most successful of this style that they've been doing.
Yeah, we talked about that. You know, this is the companion book to Batman 89. Both books are sequels to those films, which is funny because they both had sequels. And this one's doing it much better than 89 is. This one feels like, and it's funny because the Batman book's being written by the screenwriter of the movie, but this one feels like it's part of that world. It looks like it's part of that world. It has Wilfredo Torres, who I follow on Instagram, who's terrific, has been showing his art off for a while on his Instagram feed, and he's been trying very hard to cast specific actors in the roles. Mm-hmm. Like, and what's great is his art. He's not like, tracing of DVD or Blu-ray pause. He's not referencing that. It's never not Christopher Reeve.
It's still cartooning.
Yeah, it's still cartooning, but it's always Christopher Reeve we're looking at. It's still cartooning, and it's always Gene Hackman, and it's always Margot Kidder. And here with Brainiac, he's cast David Bowie, and I think that's brilliant.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, if you look on page 17, it's really clear. But he's basically trying to cast period appropriate actors in the roles that weren't already cast. So, like, who would play Bowie in the 70s? Like, it would be smart. I mean, who would play Brainiac in the 70s? It'd be Bowie. Yeah. So, yeah, this book is terrific. I love this issue and I love this series.
So in this issue, Superman is trapped in the bottle city of Kandor with his birth parents, Jorah and Lara El, and he gets basically elected to lead the city because they haven't had any new blood, no fresh ideas since they were first captured by Brainiac. So they have this, ceremony where Marlon Brando waxes poetic about my son. And I think Robert Venditti is doing a great job of capturing the voice of the characters as they were performed by the actors. Because, like, Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor is nowhere near Lex Luthor in the comics that I'm used to, but it's a super fun take on the character that only it works so well when it's Gene Hackman saying the greatest criminal mind of,
Yeah, you can't help but hear, especially Hackman in your head with this dialogue. It's terrific.
And I really like this issue. sort of brought back an element of Christopher Reeve's Superman that I always kind of liked, is that he's kind of a clumsy oaf, a bit of a doofus. So like when he's in his stark white Kryptonian robes and he's got the flute of the champagne liquid and he tries to take a drink and he dribbles it on his tunic. Yeah. Like I love that beat just because of just like, yeah, like he really is the farm boy in this book. And
because Clark is the real guy.
Yeah, and I liked that. I liked his conversation with Lois, where she thinks she's saving the day. And this portrayal of Lois, it's true to Margot Kidder's performance, but it also to me has a lot of the Max Fleischer era Superman cartoons, where it's just Lois throwing herself into trouble.
Yeah.
In ways that is really fun for her character, and I like their conversation they had when he manages to get in touch. When Lex Luthor helps her get in touch with him, and that she's like surprised that he's not eager to just, get right back to Metropolis because he's trying to make a deal with Brainiac to save Metropolis. And then I loved the final scene where he talks about his parents and how, John and Martha Kent raised him to handle things differently than his Kryptonian parents might have raised him to handle things. Right. And I thought that was a really sweet moment. And, he puts back on the Superman suit and says, all I've ever needed is a chance. And I just, man, that was like a fist pump, rah, rah, rah. That's
and he's like a little half smile on with the great minimalist lines of Wilfredo Torres. I mean, this is a complete package book. I'm actually really bummed it's only a 6-issue miniseries.
I was thinking the same thing too.
Yeah. I really wish this was an ongoing series because I want to have this in my life in a time and place where Superman comics are spiraling into the abyss for my enjoyment. This is a Superman comic I can count on every month. And as someone who's my age, Christopher Reeve, is Superman, and just to get to hang out with him. One of my favorite things from a few years ago was when Gary Frank would draw Superman and look like Christopher Reeve. Yep. And normally I can get annoyed with that happening in comics, but for whatever reason, because it's Christopher Reeve, I don't mind. I almost see him anyway whenever I see Superman. So
totally.
But you're right. I do like the idea that Jor-El and Lara are like, no, we'll just stay in the bottle because they've been bottled up by Brainiac, and we'll just stay here and we'll do science, and not to denigrate science, but we'll just stay here. We'll accept our situation and we'll make the best of it. And Clark's like, no, that's not how I was taught. So we're going to try to get out of here. And I thought that was great.
Yeah, I mean, it does speak to how part of the reason Krypton fell was because it was complacent, right?
Yeah.
And I did love the little bit of acting that happened when Marlon Brando said that, Lex Luthor's idea to contact Superman was brilliant, and he's just got his head in his hands. He's like, oh, don't ever tell him you said that.
Don't say it out loud.
The only quibble I have with this book, and it is so minor, is just that I have a hard time imagining how this movie would look using late 70s, early 80s special effects. Because
that's what they're doing these kind of stories.
Because the budget of comics being infinite, means that you can have a giant tentacled Brainiac ship flying over Metropolis, and it looks as real as every other element of the story. And that's the only thing where I kind of wonder. I'm like, man, obviously this wouldn't have worked as a movie because they didn't do it. But
that's the benefit, right? Is you get to do these things that you never would have done. That's why I liked the Smallville comic that came out after Smallville ended, so season 11 comic, because they were able to do characters and stories they could never have done on the TV.
That's a good point.
You might as well play with it. It's always funny whenever Brainiac bottles up a city like he does at the end. He grabs the Metropolis and it's floating up to his ship, is because Metropolis is way bigger than that. He just grabbed downtown.
Right.
He basically grabbed like 10 square blocks, if you look at it.
Probably businesses that don't have many apartments, and so barely anybody lives there.
Right. I mean, is it like nighttime? Like those are probably all closed.
Yep.
You just grabbed a bunch of empty real estate. But this book is terrific. And when I saw you made the pick, I said that totally made sense. I mean, I don't know what I would have made this week. It's a good chance it would have been this one. This was one of my favorite ones of the week. So
there were a few potential contenders, but none of them really came close to knocking this one off the pedestal.
It just brings a lot of joy to the hearts of Superman fans, I think. The ones I know who are reading it anyway. And I hope that it's successful enough. Maybe we get a volume 2. I know that not every book is designed or should go on forever. And I know it's a particular form of selfishness to want that. But, I'd be really happy if they did some more of this, because it's just a really well done book.
And if they treat it, and if they use the 6-issue miniseries format to make it feel more like a movie, and then the next 6 issues is the sequel to whatever this movie is, right. I could get behind that model of doing it. I do want to spend more time in this world with these characters, especially with Wilfredo Torres on the art duties.
Yeah, I mean, I love Jose Quinones or Joe Quinones? Joe Quinones. And he's great on Batman, but there's just something about the Wilfredo Torres art here that really, really works. The minimalism, the fidelity of the actors without it being slavish to their appearance. It's just perfect for this.
He gets the body types and the facial features just right enough. Like his Superman is still kind of lanky. He's not super overly muscled.
Yeah. The suit doesn't look like he's got a painted on super suit. He's wearing the clothes. And
it doesn't look like he's wearing armor. He's just got a cloth suit on. And the color, the colors just pop perfectly. Jordi Bello's doing a great job too.
Superman doesn't need armor.
No, he's invincible. He's a superb man.
So this was terrific. And there's always a lot of books on Thanksgiving. They just dump a lot of books. I don't know if they're thinking that you got time off. The majority of the audience is in America, but not if you got a podcast to do. So we had a couple of number ones this week. Black Panther number 1. From John Ridley and Juan Cabal, the Cabal of Wands, Federico Blee, Josebino. Did you read the previous series, the Black Panther in Space series?
No, I read a few issues of it, and then I couldn't keep up, so I dropped off.
I didn't either. Josh read it, but I did not read it. This is also Legacy issue 198, by the way. So I was a little lost for some of it because this is not really a clean slate. It's playing off of whatever was going on with Black Panther, Emperor of Space, Wakanda Space. But I thought this was really, really good. I like this quite a bit. I'm a little worried. I have been a little worried that they're going to sideline T'Challa in the books.
Right, to kind of make up for the absence of Chadwick.
Which is, it was a terrible tragedy for everyone. But don't let that affect the character that's been around for 50 years, So I'm glad he's not being sidelined. I'm glad it's not like Shuri, Black Panther. Which we've done.
But this, before. This characterization of Black Panther was a little different than the characterization I've seen before, in that he's really so in this issue, Wakanda has transitioned to a parliamentary system, and now he's sort of monarch in name only. And he's kind of pissed about it. And I'd not really seen a Black Panther or a T'Challa, I guess, that was sort of frustrated that he didn't have more authority and control. That was interesting.
This is all about frustrated T'Challa, right? So he's sitting in these parliamentary meetings. He's got no control, no authority. He can make suggestions, but they don't really have to listen to him. So he just gets fed up and leaves.
Well, my favorite is when they asked for his perspective instead of his directive, and he said, "My perspective is that you should return the matter to committee where they can convene a panel to further discuss potential proposals to be examined at a later date." And no, I'm not going to do the accent, but I just was like, man, I have spent enough time in political situations in DC where I'm like, that is a sick burn.
And so,
was great.
Meanwhile, he had, I think it was 10 sleeper agents all around the world that were embedded undercover to be activated should they need to be activated to protect Wakanda's interests, and someone is killing them. And the only person that knows about them is T'Challa himself. So,
and he tells Shuri in this issue.
And he does. There's a lot of really fun political intrigue, and then at the end, well, it opens with a mini adventure with the Avengers with Captain America and Thor. And
he and Cap had a weird. I thought that exchange was very odd to me. That Cap would be kind of browbeating T'Challa over his role in the Avengers. Yeah, which I guess it pays off later, but it still, to me, it rang a little false that would be how Cap would talk to T'Challa.
I agree. I think it was the only false note in the comic was that Cap's like, "You're supposed to be the chairman, and you're never around. What's the deal? Why do you suck?" And
right.
It's like,
well, it gets back to that thing that you and Josh have talked about, where it's like you don't need to introduce the idea that these guys don't have enough time to do everything. Yeah, because it doesn't make sense. If you give into that conceit, then you're going to break the entire universe.
Right.
Because there shouldn't be any way that anyone can get as much done in a day as they all get done in a day. You just have to accept that they can.
And so at the end, he calls Cap and says, "Hey, I'm stepping down from my chairmanship. I don't have time, even though I just told you earlier I did." And I get why they're doing it. They're basically separating T'Challa out from everything he's been involved in. He's no longer the king. He's no longer the chairman of the Avengers. Shuri's kind of pissed at him. He's got these sleeper agents, and he's sort of isolated and on his own now. I get why they're doing it, and then the teaser issue has got him and Cap at odds, about to punch each other. And that happened in another comic this week. I don't know if we're talking about. Oh yeah, and was it Hulk? I don't remember, but it's just, and it's not lazy, but it's just like, let the heroes be the heroes. I don't need them to always be fighting each other. It's such a Marvel thing, and it's just kind of boring at this point.
And one thing that I did think was cool is that the title credits page and the page that had the preview for or the cover for next week are using the colors and kind of rough style of the Pan-African flag. So that kind of red, green, yellow with like the Panther logo in there. And I thought that was like, that's cool. All right. I like that.
I mean, it's good. It was a good issue. I thought it was fun. I didn't love everything about it, but I did enjoy it enough that I'm going to keep reading it.
And I did like on the final page that I love post-breakup Storm and Black Panther. I love watching them interact, and so I'm excited.
I don't think I've ever actually read any stories of them together.
Well, she's in the kind of preview page for what's coming up.
Right, I'm just saying I know there was a lot of discussion at the time where it's like, we'll take the two African characters and put them together, but does it make sense if they're together? Not, who cares? But I guess that's been so long ago, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, he hasn't been a bad roommate in a while.
Yeah. We had another #1 from Marvel, Hulk #1 from Donny Cates and Ryan Haupt, which I'd forgotten about, Frank Martin and Corey Pettit. And this was weird. I don't know how I feel about this other than it looked great. What did you think about it? It
did look great. I feel like we go through this cycle every once in a while with the Hulk where it's like, well, what if Banner was really the bad guy? What if Banner
this is the comic I was talking about. Yeah, this is where suddenly Banner hates everybody. It's like, oh, these are your friends. They all respect you. He's like, no one respects what I... It's like, yeah, that's not true.
Yeah, but I mean, artificial. I've worked with a lot of academics in my life, and the idea that no one appreciates me and my brilliance is not doesn't always have to be grounded in truth. I will say. Sometimes people just feel that way because that's how they feel.
So this is the spoiler. If you haven't read the book, there's really no way to talk about it. It seems like, and it took a very careful reading with me to figure this out, and it could be because I was sick, but it seems like Banner has somehow turned Hulk into a spaceship, and he is the captain. He is the Captain Kirk sitting in his Captain Kirk chair in the Hulk's head, commanding the Hulk's body. Is that what you got from this?
Yes. So he's separated his psyche into 3 parts. He's got exterior Hulk that he's augmented with cyber tech. He's got interior Banner psyche who's living in Hulk's head, steering him like a giant robot, like a Jaeger. And then he's got Rage Hulk who's like trapped in this mental jail where he's just constantly getting attacked, and it's that rage that keeps fueling the ship.
Right. Rage Hulk is the engine.
Yeah.
So
it's cool. It's I mean, I feel like I'm getting used to Donny Cates coming on a book and taking a core tenet of the character and flipping it or twisting it just slightly enough where it's like, that's weird, but it still kind of makes sense. And sometimes it's obvious enough that like, why hasn't someone done this before? So the obvious idea here is like, what if Hulk was protecting us from Banner? And I think that's interesting. That's clever. And I'm curious to explore it.
I think Josh and I read about 10 issues of the Al Ewing Hulk book. And
I read it up into like the 30s or 40s.
I don't remember the conceit of that book. I remember it being really annoying, and I stopped reading.
It was a horror book, and it was the Mortal Hulk, and it was a horror book, and the idea was that Bruce Banner only turns into Hulk at night.
Well, yeah, that's a long time Hulk thing.
Okay, but I mean, I'm just saying they really leaned into that in this horror book. Was that like nighttime was for Hulk, and there was I think they eventually revealed that the Hulk that he was turning into at night was a different Hulk than his normal Rage Hulk.
Yeah, I just like Hulk stories. I don't need them to reinvent the wheel every time. Like Peter David did it. He basically did all you can do with the psyche of Hulk. And so just tell me some Hulk stories.
Well, they still managed to get some Ryan Otley Gore art.
Oh yeah, no, I was really shocked when he, the Hulk's arm was trapped and he pulled his hand was trapped, so he pulled his arm out and it like ripped all the skin and bone and muscle, all the skin and muscle off of his forearm. And it was just these two femur bones. I was like, oh God. Definitely
the radius and the ulna, not the femur, but that's fine.
Well, it could be the femur. You don't know how the Hulk's body's put together.
Fair enough. If I'm mapping it 1-to-1 on a typical primate, I can tell you what bones those were.
So I liked it mostly for the art, and we'll see where this goes. I just, again, now Banner hates everybody.
The issue ends in a weird spot because he defeats a bunch of Hulkbusters, and then there's like this celestial Iron Man armor with a portal in the chest where the Unibeam would come out, and he goes through that portal, and it's like, well, I thought you were going to go to space. I didn't realize you were doing like a dimension jump. So I don't know. I have no idea what's going to come next on this book, which is both interesting, but also like it's weird for a number one to set up things in such a way where I have no idea what's coming in issue 2.
Right. The Death of Doctor Strange, number 3.
I am really enjoying this series.
Yeah.
So let me tell you who did it. I realized that if I added it to the script, that I have to say those things.
That's okay.
Story by Jed McKay, art by Lee Garvin, colors by Antonio Fabella, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. I thought that the beginning of this book, the end of the issue 1 was such an interesting position to put Doctor Strange and the magical community of Marvel into that I've just really been enjoying the ride. I've never read any of the old Ditko Doctor Strange comics, so I can't speak to how like close this characterization of Ditko Doctor Strange is. I always felt like the early Doctor Strange books, he still had more of the regal, I'm a surgeon, I'm a sorcerer, I'm better than you attitude. And this way they're using him in this book, he is a much more humble character. Maybe
he's been humbled by his own death.
Yeah. I liked how he had to sort of manage his own autopsy without being able to do it himself because his hands aren't fixed. And I like that he talked later with Clea about how that really freaked him out, and I really loved their conversation while they were waiting for like the Gopher spirit to come back.
I
just thought there were a lot of nice little bits of character work. They're introducing some really creepy elements into the Marvel magic universe. I love the idea that like this thing that's attacking them might just be like the feeding tentacle of a much larger being that exists outside of our ability to comprehend, sort of the Lovecraftian Cthulhu monster of you can't even, your brain cannot process what this thing is because it's so massive and otherworldly. So there's a lot of really cool ideas in here. I haven't been reading any of the tie-in books. I think I'm missing out on some of the story because I think this jumped ahead from where issue 2.
Oh, I did read. I read the Avengers one, and I actually read this. And I read them both. I read Avengers and I read Strange Academy. I guess I don't know what White Sox is. White Fox. Blade, Black Knight. I don't know if I'm going to read all of these, but I read the first 2 because I like those characters. I just hope this doesn't end with them moving him off the board, but I am enjoying this story. I like the time displaced characters. I like that this guy's from the 60s Marvel world, that he's in the modern world and doesn't know any of these characters. I don't know if that's accurate or not from their books, but maybe they just brought it from a really, really early time in his career.
I think they've updated the Doctor Strange costume in some interesting ways, but I miss the gloves with the dots on.
This costume, the old costume is great with the flowing sash, and the blue cape. It's a good book, and Lee Garbett's art's terrific.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a solid cartoonist and storyteller, and it's been a fun little mystery, and there's a fun cliffhanger with Baron Mordo, who's looking very scared. So I'm enjoying this. Yeah.
Me too.
Let's check in on the last time you were on the show. Pick of the week, Aquaman, Green Arrow, Deep Target, number 2.
Yeah, so this is a story by Brandon Thomas, art by Ronan Cliquet, colors by Ulysses Areola, and letters by Josh Reed. And I think we both said we were really looking forward to issue 2, and I think this issue had some problems.
I think one of the big problems here is the faces, the character designs. They both have like the same beard. Almost. All of us are different, but they both have the same sort of facial structure, heavy cheekbones, same eyes. And I guess that's sort of the joke, but every once in a while I was like, wait, which one am I looking at? And then... Yeah,
I felt like there were some storytelling issues that kept coming up in ways that I kind of kept taking me out of the story. So yeah, it didn't work for me as well as the first issue did. Did you notice? So there's an extended plane sequence where I feel like the plane is out of control and going down for a very long time, such that I'm just like, how high up were you that you had this much time for the plane to be in free fall before jumping out of it? And there's 2 pilots in the cockpit, and they only rescue one of them.
I think the other one's dead. He's slumped over.
Yeah. But I mean, again, like there were issues like that where it's just like I guess I didn't catch that he was fully dead by that point, but it just felt odd to me that these 2 heroes wouldn't try to save the 2
Right. There's
People
no
in the cockpit.
conversation where the co-pilot's like, yeah, he's dead. They just sort of grab the co-pilot and jump. It's like, well, what if the other guy wasn't dead? What if he was just passed out or knocked out? So, yeah, I'm not disliking it, this issue, but this issue is definitely worse than the first one. I think the first one had the benefit of the sort of surprise, the twist, whereas, now that we know that.
Also, then they immediately kill the co-pilot, too.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, they spend all this time rescuing him only to snap his neck accidentally almost right away.
What are you going to do? I mean, this can't be. It's a 7-issue miniseries. Jeez.
Well,
it's a lot.
I mean, there's dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are big. You got to fit them in there.
I know, but geez.
So the issue ends with the dinosaur man villain from the first issue appearing to confront the two of them. And that I am interested in enough that I will keep reading this because I want to learn more about this dinosaur man.
Yeah.
And so I'll be back.
Well, he was the dinosaur man from. Yeah, we'll learn more about it. So you've been checking out Spine-Tingling Spider-Man, which is on the Marvel Universe app.
Yes, on your recommendation. Thank you very much for suggesting I check it out. It is story by Saladin Ahmed, whose work I consistently enjoy, art by Juan Ferreira, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. Yeah, this is great. It's super creepy, and I think that's the point.
Yeah, I issue 2 I thought was the weakest issue of the 3. Issue 3 I thought was much better. Issue 1 still I think is the best one, and I think it's because this is one of Marvel's Infinity Comics. That's what they're calling it. So it's a scroller. It's like webtoons. It's how the kids are reading comics. It's how I assume you were reading your comics, Ryan. So it's an infinite scroller, and like I had said last time, we can discuss another time whether that's what that means, whether that's actual comics. But it does allow them to do some interesting things. Although I think in this issue and in the last one, I don't know if they've totally got how to utilize. I mean, when you're scrolling down, the image is going up. I feel like the action should always go down. Yeah. And so a couple of times, and it was worse in the second issue, but a couple of times here, the action's going up.
Right. There's a sequence where Spider-Man is jumping down while robots are firing up at him, but you don't actually see the robots firing up at him until the bottom of that scroll section. It's just things like that. Yeah.
You need to follow the scroll now. Juan Ferreira.
Or at the very least, in addition to the action going down, you also need to be moving forward in time as you go down. So if you're moving down, you shouldn't see things that have happened before that moment. Right. You know what I
mean? It wasn't this issue, but in issue 2, he punched the villain who was a robot, and the head went up. And I was like, "Well,
this was this issue.
Was it this one?"
Yep. Smythe.
No, it was. I'm scrolling. Here's my other problem with this book.
You're sick.
My other problem with this book is there needs to be a button that says "Return to Top."
Interesting.
Because, I was trying to show a panel to my wife, and I was like, "Hold on, let me spend 5 minutes scrolling back to the top." Oh yeah, it is at this issue. He punches the robot's head up, and so you see the head first, then you come down to the punch. It has to be done reverse. If you're following the action.
It doesn't. That also struck me because he was surprised. He's like, wait a second, why did your head fall off? But then it's also just like, well, if you thought he was human Spider-Man, why'd you punch him that hard in the first place? You still
really
would have
tired.
probably. Yeah. I like this. I think I was thinking about this while I was catching up on these issues. And I think comics do creepy much better than they do horror. And this book is very good at doing creepy. It almost has, and you're probably old enough that you never got into this whole thing of creepypastas. Did you ever creepypasta?
I don't know what the hell that is.
Okay, so it's basically just scary stories on the internet, usually written by teenagers with about the skill of writing and depth of storytelling you could expect from teenagers. Right. But it's where the whole Slender Man thing came from, right? So it's it is good at generating a creepy sense of eeriness and capable of building a mythology, which is what happened with the Slender Man thing. And this has some of those vibes to me. So if people out there listening and you do creepypasta because you're not as old as Conor, you might want to check this out. It's good.
Yeah, I think the art is amazing. Sometimes it looks like Juan Ferreira's drawing with a marker. It looks really great. I just love how this book looks. So if you're a Spider-Man fan or a Juan Ferreira fan, you should check it out. If you're on Marvel Universe or Marvel Unlimited, Spine-Tingling. Is it Marvel Unlimited? I don't know what the names of anything is.
Yeah.
Spine-Tingling Spider-Man. Marvel Unlimited.
Radiant Black number 10, story by Kyle Higgins, art by Marcelo Costa, colors by Igor Monti, and letters by Becca Carey. I only put this in the script. I put this in the script for two reasons. One, I started reading it because you and Josh were talking about it and singing its praises, and so I was like, oh, I better check this out. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed catching up on it. Mm-hmm. But then the last issue that came out, issue 9, you guys were kind of down on. And so I wanted to come on board and say, I actually still am really digging this and am not down on it at all. And so and this issue 10, Miles, our main character, is basically going into like some sort of whatever higher plane of existence these powers that they all have from these mini black holes are tied to.
Right.
And sort of going on a cosmic hero's quest that everyone keeps telling him, you are going to fail, you are going to die, you are not going to be able to save your friend. And he keeps saying, I don't care. I'm going to get my buddy Nathan out of here. I'll sacrifice whatever it takes, up to and including himself. I think he fully expects that he will trade his own life for Nathan's because he perceives that Nathan is the better person. And they have a really strong emotional exchange towards the end of the issue where they kind of come to terms with their relationship. And it almost, I almost couldn't tell if Miles was like, when he says he loves Nathan, like, what is he really talking about? Like, is this brotherly love or is this something more? I'd be curious to see if they explore that. I also thought the art on this was really good. I think these sort of trippy headspace, otherworldly issues can often just kind of descend into gobbledygook. And this, to me, the art was still really strong in ways that I enjoyed looking at it. I also think it's so cool that in the last couple of years, Conor, thanks to your boy Christopher Nolan, we now have a new understanding of what black holes actually look like when you visualize them. And they're leaning into that in the design of all these characters. And how neat is that?
Well, yeah, this is okay.
The one last thing I have to say about this is I tricked you. This is a secret Go-Go Power Corner. Go Power Corner. Because you guys said that like Radiant Black is like really Green Lantern. No. This is Power Rangers, sir. This is a multicolored team of individuals with slightly different skills.
We said that at the beginning because he used to write Power Rangers.
Yeah, so this is Secret Power Corner. Go Power Corner.
Yeah, I want to see what the next issue is all about before I commit to reading anymore.
You just have to admit that this is part of Power Corner now.
I don't have to admit anything. Well,
I think the viewers out there know that this is Power Corner. All right, well, now moving on. Different corner, Transformers corner. New corner just dropping.
This is not how
Transformers Beast Wars number 10, the newest member of Transformer Corner. What corner is it transforming into? It's a cube. Who knows? Transformers Beast Wars number 10, written by Eric Burnham, art by Josh Burcham, letters by Jake M. Wood. Conor, are you reading this book?
No, I definitely am not.
Okay, well then you just sit in the corner during Transformers Corner. This is a book that is, I will die on this hill. This is Transformers Corner. This is a book that is sort of taking the Beast Wars CGI cartoon show from my childhood and kind of starting the story from scratch, retelling it with a lot of similar beats and most of the same characters, but some interesting twists. So, in this version of the telling, each of the ships, the Maximal ship and the Predacon ship, both had an extra crew member that wasn't in the show. The Maximals have Nyx, who is a bat transformer. And the Predacons have Scold, who is like a snapping turtle transformer. So that's fun. At this point in the story, we've just been introduced to Black Arachnia. You know very well, Conor, all about her story and the complications that come with that.
I don't.
The cool thing about this series is the art by Josh Burcham. He's taking it. They've had a couple of guest artists who've like really tried to do the style of the TV show, but the style of the TV show is like early 2000s or late 90s, early 2000s CGI animation. So it's a little chunky, it's a little stiff. And Josh Burcham is basically doing a much more cartoony, stylized version of all of the characters. So they don't look exactly like the toy or they would in the show, but they're all still very recognizable as their own characters. But I just think it's a really cool stylistic choice. I also think the show was a lot smarter than people give it credit for. And one of the coolest things that it introduced is that the golden discs that we put on the Voyager probes. Do you know about these, Conor?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So basically, those are eventually recovered by Cybertronians, the race of beings that become the Autobots, Decepticons, Maximals, and Predacons. And though they're able to use their transwarp drives, which allows them to go back in time, and then they can read the information off the golden disc to learn what's going to happen in the future. So it's sort of their Biff's sports almanac. And I just think that's such a clever idea. So Megatron has stolen the golden disc. Both ships have crash landed on what we will probably eventually learn is sort of a ancient Earth. And the Beast Wars have begun. And this issue, Optimus Primal has decided to finally take the fight to the Predacons. So I think next issue we're going to get a showdown between him and Megatron for the. It's gonna be great.
This sounds awful.
Go Beast Wars.
I don't know what half those words were.
Transformers Corner over.
Those are the books we wanted to talk about. There's a lot going on, but it is Thanksgiving, so we're cutting it down to the Patron Pick. Patreon.com/iFanboy is where every patron can vote to add a book to their rundown, and they still voted during the holidays. So thank you for that. And this week's winner was by a wide margin. Joy Operations #1 from Dark Horse, written by Brian Michael Bendis, drawn by Stephen Byrne, with letters by Joshua Reed, and now Jinx World, Brian Michael Bendis' own indie label, has moved to Dark Horse. So it was at Marvel, and it was at DC, it was at Image, now it's at Dark Horse. So this is his newest book, and generally speaking, I've been a big fan of Bendis' Jinx World books, especially the last. I mean, not especially mostly all of the ones that I've read. And the last run he did with a cover and a couple other books, I really liked those books. This one I didn't like so much.
I liked it at first, and then by the end, it had lost me.
It seems like it's Lazarus mixed with Firestorm a little bit.
Yeah.
So we have a female operative who's, sort of running
it's like cyberpunk Lazarus.
Yeah. She's running around this futuristic world, and she's the protector of this particular group, this trust, this family. And she gets attacked by another protector, and that's where the sort of Lazarus thing comes in. It sounds like there's like a bunch of different protectors. I don't even know what they're called.
Well, the Lazarus thing also comes into it in that, like, this is clearly a society run by corporations.
Right.
And the corporations are dynastic. So it's, you got your Logan Roys and all that.
Right. So she's got a voice in her head who's the narrator, who we think at first is her, but turns out it's not her. It's another protector. I just don't remember what the name of the protectors are. They're not Lazarus, obviously, but
envoys.
Another envoy.
VOI. Yeah.
Who is in her head from another family, who's able to talk to her, and then the twist at the end is the envoy can also control her body. So
the envoy is trying to get her to assassinate her.
There was just nothing in here that grabbed me, and that's unusual because Bendis usually has some kind of interesting twist or take or character or world, that really hooks me right away. And there was almost nothing in here. And I like Stephen Byrne a lot. He's a terrific artist. They did Wonder Twins book together at DC, but it just looked kind of bland. The character was kind of bland. The world was kind of bland. And I was really kind of shocked. If you had told me this was Bendis, I never in a million years would have known that.
Yeah, I agree. And, when I first saw that the lead character was sort of an older woman with this super suit, I thought that was cool because that's not a visual that we see very often. But then there was really nothing that came of that. Like, it was no part of her personality or story that played into this interesting look.
Right.
I agree.
She's just sort of, there's nothing about her that I want to know more about. It doesn't mean it's not there. They just haven't told us in this first issue. She's just running around the rooftops. And so I don't know what her story is. I don't know anything about this world. I just don't know.
It looked very slick. It looked sort of like a video game. So it seems like it almost, it'd be a fun world to play in if I got to control this character. But just reading about them, I'm not currently that interested or invested.
Yeah, I mean, it was bizarre. I mean, I was excited because like I said in the beginning, I like Bendis' Jinx World stuff a lot. For the most part, probably like 8 out of 10 books I really, really like. I liked Pearl a lot. I liked Cover a lot. But it's just weird. It was just a weird issue. There wasn't a hook.
And I fully went into it thinking Brian Michael Bendis #1. This is definitely something I need to think about as pick, but it just didn't sing for me.
Yeah. So Let's do ratings on Joy Operations #1 from Dark Horse. Ratings out of 5 stars.
Ratings.
2.5.
I was also thinking 2.5. It's very pretty to look at. Stephen Byrne did a great job.
I just found like I just think our costume design is kind of boring. Like I just think everything about this book is boring, and it's a bummer.
Sticking with it?
Honestly, probably not. Unless I hear that like it got like amazing, I'd go back, but doubtful, honestly.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat.
So there's your Patron Pick. Patreon.com/iFanboy. Every patron can vote to add a book to the rundown. But if you're a patron, it gives it the $5 or higher level. You get your own superpower live on the show, like these two gentlemen. And our first patron's name is Jeff Shay, Shay. Earlier on another episode, we had Jeff Shay, Shea. Two Jeff Shays, spelled differently. Same Jeff Shay trying to get 2 powers. You decide.
Tricky. I mean, he wouldn't be the first person who ended up with 2 powers.
So if they're 2 different people, you should become friends and make a Jeff Shay club. It'd be awesome. But you should only let people in who spell the name differently. Everyone has to have a different spelling. Like you can have a Geoff Shay, you know?
Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of spellings that exist.
So anyway, Jeff Shay is a patron, and his power, also his superhero name, is the highlighter. And what that means is not only can he highlight text with his fingers, but he can highlight anything for you. So like, what should I know about this? Here's the highlights. A book, a movie, a game, a news story, someone's personal anecdote. Oh my God, I got cornered by Ryan at the party. He talked to me about an hour for sloths. And what's the highlights? Well, here's the highlights. Jeff has all the highlights.
People are delighted when they learn about sloths from me at parties. I'll have you know.
Well, the highlights are important.
I guess, but I feel like if you wanted to highlight all the cool things about sloths, you just have to repeat everything I said, because nothing I said isn't
That's true.
Part of the highlights. But that sounds like a useful power. What about like physically highlighting things? Like, can his finger be used as a highlighter?
Yeah, he can physically highlight text with his finger.
So he can both pull out the most relevant information from a given encounter or story or event, but he can also physically highlight things.
Yes.
What colors are available to him?
Just this fluorescent yellow.
Just the fluorescent yellow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's going to be the most important. He's only going to highlight the one thing that's most important.
Sure. Know? Yeah, it's not like he needs multiple types of highlights. Because like sometimes when I'm reading a book,
sure, there's
like
pink,
if there's
blue,
yeah, if there's like I'll have different highlights for like this is a section I want to highlight because I thought it was interesting and well written. Whereas sometimes I'll highlight like I'll do a blue highlight if I have to look up a word and then I'm like I'm learning a new word here. I'm going to highlight that word.
Okay.
How about that?
He can only do the yellow though. Lance
Kaminsky. Also, his power also comes with a superhero name.
Okay.
Lance Kaminsky is the water bear.
Okay.
He can, and you may remember learning about water bears when I wrote an article about animal superheroes. So I'm sort of taking a page out of that book, but I'm putting a twist on it. So as the water bear, Lance Kaminsky can go into a state of cryptobiosis where he completely dehydrates himself, and there's just a little husk of Lance that's in stasis.
Yeah.
A metabolic stasis that he can exist as sort of a mummified version of himself in extreme conditions, outer space, very hot, very cold, frozen.
Yeah.
Radiation, all of that. Nothing will kill him when he's in his cryptobiosis state, but he is just kind of this dried husk of a mummy. And then as soon as somebody puts some water on him, pop, he's back.
Wow. So he's like one of those like what do they call it? Freeze dried? No. What's it called when you put it's just add water?
Instant noodles? I don't know.
There's a word for it though.
He's dehydrated. You know, the cryptobiosis, he does like he squeezes all the water out of his body, and so he's like this dry. He looks dead.
Wow.
Great for playing pranks, but he is alive, and in that state, it's very difficult. It would be very difficult to actually kill him.
How much water?
Like most of his body's water would be.
How much water do you need to pour on him to wake him up?
Oh, just a bit, just splash, give him a little splash.
Just a splash of water until he rehydrates.
Light rain. He might need to get a glass of water once he's up and moving around again to finish the process. But to get him restarted, it just takes a cup of water into the face. He would start to wake up. He might need to go soak in the tub for a minute or two to fully rehydrate. But that's enough to get him going.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. That's where you can go. You can vote to add a book to the rundown. You can get superpowers live on the show. And that's how you can help support iFanboy. That's how we are done here. We're listener supported. Can
you imagine giving a Halloween candy if you were just sitting there like looking dead, and then the said instructions said like splash a cup of water on me for candy, and then like you brought this mummy thing back to life? It'd be great.
The cops would be
Lance
called
gonna
to
have a
your
lot
house.
of fun. Sorry, Lance.
We are listener supported. We thank everyone who does support us, especially the patrons. The patrons have over the years unlocked a lot of shows that you listen to now. They unlocked the Talksplodes, the Booksplodes, the Mediasplodes. They unlocked the YouTube content that's currently being uploaded to our YouTube page. They unlocked the Patron Pick. They have their own monthly hangout that they unlocked. They've unlocked a lot of free fun stuff that we do every month. And our next stretch goal is we'll start covering comic book TV shows again. We stopped doing that a couple of years ago. There's just so many of them. And Josh and I, I'm the only one who watches them, basically. So we stopped, but we'll bring them back if we had our next stretch goal. Then after that is the return of the barbecue video show that we answer emails and cook meat. We'll do that on a quarterly basis. Those are our next two stretch goals. Patreon.com/iFanboys is where you can help out, get to that point. And we thank everyone who does that. We truly do. We hope to make it worth your while. Also, iFanboy.threadless.com, that's where we have our t-shirt designs. You can get those designs and things other than t-shirts, but most people get t-shirts. We've got 11 shirts, a Fanboy logo, Herm, Pick a Week podcast, ratings, one is Electro, GDAT, Nothing Makes Sense, Nothing Matters, Stay Home and Read Comics, Power Responsibility, Clint is Dead, and I Love Comics. And guess what? We got a new design coming in December. Just approved it, just uploaded it to the store.
Wow.
We're going to unveil it, I think, during our Patreon hangout next week.
This is news to me. I wasn't consulted.
It was new. It's a new design. So we have that one coming in December. That'll be our 12th. We have an idea for a 13th one, but that's going to be a while till we unveil that one because we did a bunch this year. So check those out at fanboy.threadless.com. Oh, we're having a sale right now. Well, not we. Threadless is having a sale right now. It's Black Friday time. I believe until December 30th. So if you're listening to this when the show comes out, you got a couple days. Regular t-shirts are $12, normally $20, and everything else is 10% off the store. So
might have to stock up.
If you were thinking about buying a t-shirt and haven't done so yet, or you want to buy a Clint is Dead t-shirt for your grandmother for Christmas, now's the time to do it at fanboy.threadless.com. Until December 30th, there's a sale going on. fanboy.com/support. That's where you can directly donate via PayPal. Again, if you're an eccentric billionaire and you want to donate a large sum of money but are worried about the tax implications or the paperwork involved, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it all. And fanboy.com/Amazon. That's where you can find links to the books we talk about in Booksplode, as well as the general shopping link. It is the holiday time. If you want to do your shopping through there, we do appreciate that. And those are all the ways the listeners help support the show. We do thank you very much, everyone who does that throughout the year, and we couldn't do the show without you. Let's do a listener question.
Okay, I'll read it.
Okay.
Rashaad B wants to know, given the sliding age scale, is Dick Grayson a better fighter than Bruce Wayne was when he was the same age? ? Good question. I read this one early so I would have time to think about it, but I think we have to defer to Conor first on this one.
Well, I guess the question is, how old is Dick Grayson? And what is your continuity for Bruce Wayne? So those are the two questions you have to answer first.
I kind of don't want to factor in the sliding age scale because I feel like part of the conceit of at least Nightwing aged Dick Grayson and Batman is that they're both in peak physical condition.
Right. So you
almost don't need to worry about the age.
Like most things, like we talked about earlier with time, it doesn't make any sense. If Batman was 27 in Batman Year One, I think that's how old they said he was when he came back from abroad. Dick Grayson was 8 when he was brought on a couple years later. If he's 20 something now, Bruce would be in his late 40s, 50s, but he's clearly not. Because again, none of it makes sense. None of it matters.
He's also been through half a dozen Robins and is still in his mid 30s.
Right. So if you say my continuity has Batman Year One is in my continuity. So he's 27 when he's first Batman, and he's terrible. If you recall that story, he got beat up a lot. He got stabbed in the leg. He almost died. So he's not a good fighter in his late 20s. Whereas Dick Grayson is a world-class fighter. So I'd have to say, if you take them both in their nebulous 20s, Dick Grayson is a better fighter than Bruce Wayne was at the same age.
I think there are still some key differences, though. I remember there was an issue where Catwoman and Nightwing fought, and one of the comments she made was that, you're a hair faster than him.
Right.
But just a hair. It's a game of inches between the two of them. And so in my continuity, their styles are different enough. Nightwing is flamboyant. He's showy.
Yeah.
He's jumping around. He's acrobatic. Bruce is not fully a bruiser, but he's like a much more powerful. Yeah. He's powerful in ways that, and so it's sort of in the D&D scheme. You know, Bruce would have a higher strength modifier, higher strength score, whereas Dick would clearly have a higher acrobatics or a dexterity modifier. So, like in my D&D game right now, I'm actually playing a character that is based off of Dick Grayson. His name is Grayson, and he's an Aarakocra monk, so he's like a bird person monk, and he's extremely dexterous, and he jumps around, he's very acrobatic. And if I was going to build a Bruce Wayne character, I wouldn't build that same character. I would build somebody who fights in a completely different way using different abilities. So I think there's that to consider as well.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, you know, Bruce went around the world training and, you know, mastered all kinds of different fighting styles. But when he came back to Gotham to apply them, he hadn't really applied them in the real world so much. Again, at least in year one, which is my continuity. So he wasn't quite there yet. Whereas Dick, you know, started training when he was 8, and now, you know, he's
started training to be a crime fighter when he was 8, but had been trained as an acrobat basically from birth.
So he has a leg up on Bruce in terms of.
Whereas Bruce, when he was doing his travels around the world, he wasn't only doing martial arts training, he was also getting trained by other detectives and trackers and mercenaries.
To learn forensics. Like, there were lots of things going on.
He was learning other skills besides just fighting, whereas I feel like Dick Grayson
was also learning, to be fair. He was also learning those things.
But I don't think anyone would argue that Dick has the better mind than Bruce.
No, for sure. You know, he's just not as good as a detective. Tim was the better detective than Dick is. But I think if you just go straight up, like, age Bruce down to Dick's age, Dick's probably the better fighter.
But not by much.
It just depends. If it's Bruce, if it's Dick fighting year one Bruce, then Dick's going to win.
Easily, yeah. But I still think it's the sort of thing where it's like, if Bruce could land a punch on Dick, I bet he could do some damage, but I think he would have trouble actually landing a punch.
I'd like to see Jorge Fornes draw that story, since David Mazzucchelli won't do it. So Jorge Fornes, Tom King, make that your next 12-issue miniseries. Bruce Wayne is aged down and has to fight Dick Grayson for some reason.
He slips and falls in a Lazarus pit, but just for a second, and so he gets dropped down a few years, but not all the way. And I would read that.
Thanks, Rashaad B. Contact at iFanboy.com is where you can write in for this show or for the Media Explode. All right, let's do some quick plugs and announcements and then get out of here. Get back to our families in the holiday time. So out now behind this show on the feed is our Media Explode, our last Media Explode of the year, where Josh and Ron and I talked about holiday media traditions, and we spent a lot of time talking about movies in different decades and our favorites from different decades and the best decade for film. It was a really good discussion, I thought, about movies. Also, right behind this show, came out right before, or just a couple days ago, right before the holidays, we released 2 special edition shows. One in which Josh, Paul, and I talked about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and then where Josh and I talked about Eternals. Two very different discussions. Although we both at the end of them talked about what does the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe look like now, and I thought they were both interesting. And so check those out. They're on the feed behind this one. So now as we talked about before, we're entering the holiday schedule. So things are a little bit different for the next couple of weeks until we go on holiday break. There's going to be a lot of shows, though. I think there's 6 shows coming out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shows coming out in the next 3 weeks. In a couple of days, this coming week on Thursday, you're going to have our Avengers Forever Booksplode. Josh and I talked about the Kurt Busiek, Carlos Pacheco classic, Kang. It's all Kang-tastic. That's coming out on December 2nd. Our final patron hangout of the year, if you're a patron, is going to be Saturday, December 4th. Then we have 2 more Pick of the Week shows before the end of the year. Pick of the Week 809 is coming out on December 5th. Pick of the Week 810, December 12th. In between that, we have another Booksplode because we accidentally skipped a month. We're going to talk about Death of Captain Marvel, the classic story from Jim Starlin. That's coming out on December 9th. Josh's final Talksplode of the year. So it will hopefully come out on December 16th. We say hopefully just because they haven't recorded it yet. You never know with guests. And then our final show of the year, as always, is our All Media Year-End Special. That comes out on December 18th. And then we go on holiday break, and we'll be back with Pick of the Week 811 on January 9th. So that is the holiday schedule. That's what you can look forward to. And we hope you enjoy all the shows we've got coming for you in the next few weeks.
I do a podcast called Science Sort Of. We have a 2-episode series coming up that should be pretty cool. It's going to be about like the future of transportation and how we can electrify the way we move around the world, including things like air travel. Talked to some folks at National Geographic about a recent cover story on those topics. So that should be a fun one to look forward to. ScienceSword.com or wherever you get your podcasts where you can check that out.
What's the biggest hurdle to electrifying planes?
That batteries are heavy and planes need to be light. Basically is what it comes down to.
That's a big problem.
Yeah. It's gas. Your energy to weight ratio for something like gasoline is just so much higher than a lithium-ion battery.
Yeah, right.
So, well, I'm not right. I asked an expert and they told me.
What if we just added giant fans onto the back of the plane?
There you go. And why don't they just put a parachute on the plane?
Right. Giant parachute on the top of the plane. So if anything goes wrong, it just deploys. And why don't they make the plane out of the black box?
Exactly. I suggested the return of Zeppelin travel, which I think would be very, very fun.
Ryan, I don't know why you don't invite me on these shows. I've got so much to offer.
Clearly, it's a huge misstep that I have not brought you into the Science Sort of fold. We can correct that. We had Tom Caters on back in the day.
Well, he's got more to offer than I do. He was working in science research grants for a while.
I did not know that. That didn't come up, funnily enough.
Well, that was probably before that, though. After that.
I have a quick synopsis of my viewing of Shang-Chi, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
It is the story of a grieving parent who gets taken in by conspiracy theories and then won't listen to his kids when they tell him that he's wrong. So he fucks around, finds out, and it ends up getting him killed and leaving the world a worse place for his children, which I think is pretty on point for our cultural moment.
That's not wrong. Do you have thoughts on Eternals?
I have not seen Eternals yet.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, in the meantime, head over to fanboy.com. You can find all the shows I just mentioned over there, including and as well as our vast history of comic book writing for many, many years. I think it was, I think we have 8 years worth of writing on there from all of our various writers, including Ryan Haupt. What was the article you mentioned earlier you wrote about? Bears?
Animals who I would like to see superheroes and supervillains based off of, and I basically created origin stories. And then there's a follow-up article where one of the visitors to the website, who is an artist, actually drew them all for me, which was awesome.
So there you go. Those are all over at iFanboy.com. You can like facebook.com/iFanboy or follow at iFanboy on Twitter or at iFanboy Comics on Instagram. That's so you can find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out. Individually, we are CS Kilpatrick on Instagram and Ryan Haupt on Instagram and Haupt on Twitter. And you can subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/iFanboy. Keep up to date on our old video show re-uploads. This past week we had the mini it came from the storage unit, Fantastic Four 281, 1985. That's where I take an old comic out of my storage unit, try to guess the plot based on the cover. We had a show, full-length show on comic book origins, good ones, bad ones, funny ones, the best ones. And then on Friday we had San Diego Comic-Con 2010 Anthology Part 1, in which we were looking forward to the Comic-Con, giving you tips and things to look out for, what to bring with you, how to act if you'd ever been. And that was fun. And we talked about it before, the full-length shows are going to end this month. We'll have uploaded our last full-length show on December 31st. And so after that, it'll just be all minis for a little while. Then we'll have everything uploaded. Everything missing from our old days at Revision 3 will be uploaded.
I want to tell you that if you dig the show, it's super helpful to write a review or leave a star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, or even wherever you don't get your podcasts. Just go leave ratings, hit the like button on YouTube. Just generally spread good feelings around.
Not graffiti. I would say take like a Post-it notes and write your review and then slap that on things.
Maybe, write out your review on a Word doc, print that out, and then post it on the pegboard at your local coffee shop.
True. Fair enough.
And, include the iFanboy logo so people know how to find it when they search for it. That's going to help.
Yeah.
This is also a time of year where you're probably going to be seeing friends and family that you don't see other times of the years. And so if it comes up, if they ask what you've been into, how you've been keeping busy, what you've been listening to, you can tell them that you've been listening to iFanboy. And that might help them find the show and learn that they too enjoy the two jamokes talking about comics and other things that come up.
I hope it was helpful over your Thanksgiving holiday dinner, and it wasn't instead of fighting about QAnon, you were just like, let's talk about Darkhawk and what these guys think about Darkhawk.
Did you know that this guy is drawn to look like Christopher Reeve? That's neat. It's also a time of year where you might want to tip your letter carrier for doing such a good job all year, especially given the really tough circumstances we've all been under. Maybe as part of that tip, that plate of cookies, that box of chocolates, just a little thumb drive with all the iFanboy episodes on it. Right. So I'm going to keep advocating for random thumb drives to strangers full of iFanboy episodes so you can help us spread the iFanboy love.
All right. Well, that's it for this week's show. Thanks for coming on, Ryan. My name is Conor. Talk to you soon.
My name is Ryan. You stay safe out there. Josh, keep helping those turkeys.